I will tell you mine. It's a favor because there's a lot of layers to it. And this happened about a year after my divorce. So at the time, I was not emotionally ready for a deep connection, but I was horny. So I was looking for company and friends with benefits if they were willing. And I'd had a couple by then, 2 or 3 maybe. And I was in a singles group on Facebook. And a woman posted a picture of herself from her neck pretty much down to her knees, just, wearing tight clothing. And she said, my husband knows I'm on here and we don't have a satisfying physical relationship, and he's okay with me looking for just a physical relationship. I don't want to date you. I don't want to marry you, And I'm like, this is perfect. Like, this is exactly where I am in my life. So I DM'd her and we ended up talking for a little bit and exchanged phone numbers, and we met for dinner. And got along at dinner, and she was one where, she had sent me pictures of her face eventually, but the Facebook post just had, she was faceless. And we're getting along good. And then after dinner, she's like, well, you want to go for a drive for a little bit? So yeah. So the restaurant was situated at the bottom of a canyon. So we drove up this mountain and we were hanging out there for a little while, and we were getting kind of cozy. I mean, I think while we were standing there overlooking God's country, like, I think I hugged her, like I stood behind her and just kind of cuddled her a little bit. But, I knew it was new for her, and I move slow anyway. Like even with someone who says that they're looking just for sex, the very beginning, I take it real slow because I want to know where they're coming from, and I want them to feel safe and all that stuff. So I don't usually make early moves. But anyway, we came back down from the mountain, and she was getting back in her car, and she said, I'd like to see you again. I said, I'd like to see you too. And it was really cute. She says, okay, now I'm going to give you a hug, and I'm going to get in my car, and then I'm going to leave. I'm like, okay. She seemed like she was kind of nervous about this, understandably, because,
Yes, absolutely.
I assume I was the first guy that she'd been with besides her husband. So we ended up getting together and having sex and doing pretty much all the things. And she was a good company. We didn't see each other very often, but it was probably over 2.5 years that we saw each other. Sometimes it was once a month. Sometimes it was once every 6 months. Like literally out of the blue, I'd get a text and she'd say, I want you to come over and fuck me, which is kind of hot, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like no preamble, no like, hey, how have you been?
Oh, yes.
Tell me what's going on in your life. I want you to come over and fuck me. Oh, okay. And we usually did it at her place. I don't know why. It just worked out that way. But anyway, here's where it gets kind of interesting. So, well, if that wasn't interesting, and maybe it is, but here's where it gets kind of interesting. Spending time with somebody like that, like you were saying, you talk about their dreams, you talk about, stuff they're into. She confessed to me, she said, I think my husband might be gay.
Oh, wow.
And I said, understand why you guys don't have an intimate relationship. Because she told me a little bit about their sex life, kind of like your situation. She said, he has trouble keeping an erection, and he can't go for very long. Like just the entire event doesn't last very long. Not just the sex, but like the whole sexual experience.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, that kind of makes sense that, if he can't sustain an erection, maybe he's not quite attractive to any female. Well, more time goes by, and she says, okay, he's not just gay, but I need to tell you something. He's into infantilism. Yeah, that was the look on my face too.
Oh, my.
And of course, the first thing I thought of was he's attracted to babies. That's not what it is.
Okay. That's exactly what I thought.
That's what I thought too. That's not what it is. He likes dressing as a baby and being treated as such and acting like one. So he'll wear a diaper, and he has a boyfriend, I guess, or boyfriends. I think there's a group of them that get together, and they take turns. So one of them will wear the diaper, and they have built a crib. There's an adult-sized crib. So they lay in the crib and they, goo goo gaga and act like a baby, and they poop the diaper, and then somebody changes their diaper and wipes them, and goes through this whole thing. And
Weird.
that's what I thought. My first, because see, few things surprise. The older we get, the fewer things surprise you anymore.
Yes, that's true.
That was a shocker. But I thought very quickly after my shock wore off, what a good thing he found people to do this with him.
Yes.
Because the people that have unfulfilled sexual desires, or repressed sexual desires, or even repressed emotions, doesn't have to be sex, but just, repressed emotions or emotions that aren't expressed for whatever reason, those are the ones that can get depressed and suicidal maybe, or turn to drugs or alcohol or deviant behavior. So what a good thing that this, to me, unusual, let's say weird, activity, he has other people to do it with.
Yes.
And that was really interesting, as we all have our thing.
We do.
And some of us have secrets, and you never know who you're working with or who you're standing next to and line at McDonald's is what they're into. But I kind of enjoyed that experience, like learning about him. And I never met him, by the way. I saw pictures of him, but we never met. But I thought, how cool is that? That for something so unusual, I mean, let's say it's unusual for friends with benefits, but that's normal in quotes versus infantilism.
Yes.
I mean, there's a spectrum of not normal behavior.
Yes.
And infantilism's probably on the far end of it. And anyway, I remember one time too, I was over at her place, and I would never do it in their bed. I told her, I was like, I wouldn't, I'm a little kinky, but I'm not that kinky.
Yeah.
So we would always, she had in their basement, there was a spare bedroom. That's where always that we went. And I remember leaving the bedroom one time, and there was a door next to the bedroom. It was always closed. And we were walking out, and I said, hey, what's in there? Is that a closet? Or because the door's always closed. She's like, no, that's where he does his thing.
Oh, wow.
She said, do you want to see it? I said, no, thank you. But apparently there's a crib in there, and there's diapers and wipes.
Wow.
And I don't know to what extent he and his partners, I don't know if there was masturbation or if he got a hand job while he was I don't know what the deal was. I don't know if they had sex. I didn't want to really ask. But that was fascinating. And then, and that was it. We went about 2.5 years, and I started getting the feeling she wanted more.
Oh, God.
They ended up getting divorced.
Okay.
So I think while she was married, she had that life. I was her side piece, which totally worked for me because I never had to worry about her, like your men getting clingy.
Yes.
And we didn't always, kind of like you guys, like we didn't always have sex. We always had sex when we got together, but there was like sometimes we'd go out to eat. I think we went to a couple of movies. But it was a good experience. It was really healthy. And because I think part of my life is when I was married, I was 100% faithful, and I never thought about straying. In fact, I never even got into situations where I thought I might stray. And I traveled for work. So I was in hotels, and I could have very easily cheated and nobody would have found out about it. But it was important to me that I didn't do that. So I just figured I'd have sex with one person for the rest of my life. And when we got divorced, I was like, well, things are open again. I'm just going to do. And so I've had not only the lady with the infantilism husband, but there's a handful of people that are just so fascinating that, again, you never think about.
That's true.
The what's going on in their lives.